Welcome everybody to the second episode of the anti-review podcast, the anti-podcast. Today with me is Dan Grambles talking about Nimona.
Hello.
So you made a video where you sing the praises of this movie to the high heavens.
Yes, I'm concerned that you're going to say, and I do not like it now, because that feels like a setup to be like, and why do you think that? Because I think it's a pile of shite. Is that what's going to happen?
I think it's okay. It's definitely not the
Okay.
best thing I've seen on Netflix this year, even this month probably. Like, I mean, you probably haven't heard of this, but there's a thing called "This World Won't Tear Me Down," and it's pretty good, and it's a Netflix series, an animated one.
That sounds really cool. I'll check that out. And yes, you're right. I have not heard of that. I'm actually
It's about
pretty.
it's about a Italian cartoonist who is also concerned with fascism and tries to fight Nazis, and
That
then
sounds
and
awesome.
then
That
his
sounds so good.
and then he finds out that someone he knows is rolling with the Nazis, and then he's in big
Oh,
trouble.
this
Oh,
sounds amazing. I'm gonna go. I want to watch this now. Like, we should be talking about that.
I mean, I'm
Um,
doing that like next week, I guess.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll have to watch it. Yeah, I'm actually pretty out of the loop when it comes to Netflix. Like Nimona, I was quite lucky because I don't have Netflix anymore. You know, they did the crackdown on all the like password sharing and stuff.
Ah,
So I
piracy.
only, yeah, well, I mean, I could probably do that, but it's just finding the time to like actively look into
No,
like, hey,
I
what am I
mean it.
missing out on?
I'm just saying it's like piracy if you're just stealing like your neighbor's Netflix or
Oh
whatever.
right, yeah, yeah. Well, I wasn't. It's me and my girlfriend share one, but we don't. I don't live with her, so it's kind of like gave her a bit of a oh, you can't be doing that anymore. So I only get to watch it when I'm staying at her house, which I'm only staying out the weekends at the minute. So I'm really out of the loop of what's on Netflix because when I do stay at hers, we're not just watching Netflix. We'll go like months without watching Netflix. So I just kind of caught Nimona on a whim. But yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I mean it was interesting. She is very obnoxious. You've mentioned this, and you like that.
Yeah,
I'm
I love the
surprised.
obnoxious. I
And
love the
she
obnoxious.
is not a good person. She is trying to murder people the entire
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's great. It's
and
great.
you're saying this is like a good representation of your moral system of anarchism.
I wouldn't say it's a good representation of a moral system. I don't think that those were ever words that I put out there. I
Okay,
said
I'm kidding.
she is definitely by the end of the film, especially obviously our moral system changes significantly. This is the arc of her character is very smash bash boom crash, destroy everything, and you do understand and empathize with her reasons for that kind of stance because she's been so pushed aside by society and it's she's lashing out. But through Ballister, who's like the main other main character, that kind of the two of them have the arc together. They kind of like meet somewhere in the middle in that Ballister sort of questions the institutions he put so much faith in, and Nimona kind of keeps that anarchist sensibility, as emphasized by like her literally tearing down the institution. But by the end of the film, it doesn't feel like she wants to murder everybody so much as save everybody. So I think that ending, that the arc she comes to, is a better representation of these moral systems. But I loved their obnoxiousness because I thought it was. I'm very much normally one who does not like an obnoxious character. Like for me, the one that everybody's a real stickler with me on because everybody loves this character and I just can't stand him. I really don't like Tony Chopper in One Piece. Just because he's just so over the top. I know that's a
Which
weird
one is he?
example. He's the little reindeer doctor.
Ah,
Yeah, with the top hat.
I mean, yeah, I guess he's annoying, but I mean, everyone's annoying in that show, so don't.
Yeah, but I don't know why like he just sticks out to us. But I'm using him as an example specifically because everybody loves that character. He's a lot of people's favorites, and I just can't stand him. So I've got a very low tolerance for like the
I mean,
obnoxious
he's a
characters.
nice character. He's not gonna murder everyone. I mean, occasionally, but like it's like I think he has a better moral compass than Nimona does in the start of her
Oh, sure,
arc.
but But I don't need my characters to have a good moral compass in my stories. I need my characters to be interesting, not good people. Like, and yes, there's definitely ways to do good people and good characters who are interesting and compelling people, and there's definitely ways to do like shithead characters who aren't interesting and compelling. Like I don't need necessarily to have any similar moral compass to the characters that I see on screen or endorsement of the ethics that they demonstrate. I just need to be engaged with their story. I mean, even on a larger thematical level where the themes of the film can be kind of at odds with my world viewpoint, but if it's an interesting enough film, I can get past that. That's the rarer example. But for example, something like Forrest Gump is a very, very conservative film. But I really, really love Forrest Gump. I think it's a great film, and the reason it's a great film is just because it has great characters and a great story and great arcs. And I feel the same way about. I know it's a weird comparison to make Forrest Gump and Nimona, but like I feel the same way about Nimona in that, like, yeah, actively she tries and wishes to kill people at the start of the film, but she does it in such an interesting and approaches that ideology with such a interesting, fun, charming way that I find her engaging, regardless of if I would agree with that sentiment in real life. Like obviously in real life, she'd be a menace, which is not in real life, thankfully. She's in this wonderful medieval fantasy world the animator has made.
I mean, she's still like a horrible menace, and she only just slightly like doesn't murder like a million people only because she happens to meet like the knight, and he's the one who says like, no, please, just cut it out, just all of the fucking time, just cut it out. And I don't know, to me she is like so ridiculous that she's almost irredeemable at the start of the movie, and of course she does get redeemed later. But like, if you say that we've got anarchism, then isn't it weird that we would start out with characters that would literally like murder everyone, and in the end they decide, okay, maybe a little less murder, you know?
But here's the thing, right? I'm not saying that Nimona in any way is like a tacit endorsement of the anarchist moral system or the ideology. Like, it's obviously not. Like, she has anarchist beliefs and anarchist tendencies, and there is anarchist messaging in the film. There's also, liberal messaging because they kind of have the shaking the cop's hand at the end after everything resolves that. So it's not like it's an ideologically perfect film in terms of how it represents any sort of political perspective. But
I mean, it probably wouldn't be perfect if like anarchism turned out to be the correct way to go.
I mean, that's your thoughts. I'm not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing with that. But what I will say is that, like, I think, when you say like she's irredeemable to an extent and she does get a little bit redeemed in the end, I think if we saw her kill somebody, if we saw her like actually murder the amount of people she wants to and voices an affinity towards murdering, then absolutely, yes, she would be irredeemable. However, in the context of the film, to me, a lot of that murder, I'm going to kill all these good guys because I'm a bad guy, it feels like a kid talking big talk. We literally never see her commit. Like, she smashes stuff and she crashes through things and she's got kind of a rebel attitude, but we never see her commit any act of malicious violence that
I think when she turns into a whale and crashes through several floors of a building, I think we can just assume that people died, like we don't need to be shown that people died, and she turns into a Godzilla in the end. Like, are you like, really?
So
And not to
two thoughts on
mention,
that.
that we are shown that she's a dragon, and she was terrorizing this village for 1,000 years, and then we see a cutscene where she turns into a bear, and then people got mad. But there's something in between there, between her being a bear and being ostracized, and then later on becoming a dragon, that we're not seeing, where she's probably killed tons of people as a dragon. And you're saying she's like a little kid, but she is 1,000 years old, so I don't know. You're giving her a lot of leeway here, just because we're not specifically showing
Well,
the
it's because it's
violence.
but because it's a story. It's not real. Like, yeah, she's 1,000 years old, but she's clearly portrayed and written as a child, as a like fun, bubbly little rebel child. Like, it's just still very much clearly an articulation of a child friendly character that, like, a kid can see themselves in, who's just, it's like it's played narratively as mischief rather than murderous intent. um
But then
and
again, we're also seeing the fact that she's lied this entire time, and then when she's exposed for the fact that she is in fact a 1,000-year-old dragon, she does become a Godzilla. So I don't know. Maybe the mischievousness
well,
was more of a
yeah, but
facade,
the Godzilla destructiveness, it feels very, fantastical and magical, and outside of her, conscious decisions. The way the film plays it, it's very much like this kind of magical manifestation of hate and isolation and loneliness and anxiety, like, overtakes her. And so, like, I'm not sure you put that necessarily on the character Nimona any more than you'd put, say, the violent actions of Phoenix on, like, of Dark Phoenix on the character of Phoenix. It's very much an element of the plot that drives that destructiveness, and it's a plot that comes from her character arc, and the what the Save the Cat book would call her Dark Night of the Soul moment. But it's still like the Godzilla stuff is like a fantastic element that's out of that character's control. And even then, like, yeah, she causes a lot of destruction and all that, but, like, anything that we don't see is something that the writers and creators are not trying to articulate. And yes, logically speaking, if she knocks over a building, there's probably going to be people in that building and probably someone dies. But, like, films aren't logic, It's like, they're like poetry. And it's like, if poetry doesn't follow a sentence structure, you don't correct its grammar. It's just trying to articulate a message with the material that you give there, that is there. And so for me, like, I just took it as you can logic poke it all you want, and if that's how you want to enjoy the film, then by all means do that. But for me, like, she just came off as mischievous and maybe even a little bit believing her own murderous intent. But when push comes to shove, like, I do not think, like, Nimona, the character, is going to be the kind of person that, would happily, like, tie someone to a chair and slit their throat. I think that's kind of like a whole different level.
Yeah, she would probably just turn into a shark and eat him.
Well, maybe, but we never see that, and we never have reason to believe she's killed anybody. And also, the dragon thing turned out to be hyperbole, that where the society that had ostracized her has kind of fabricated this lie around her to explain the fire that they caused through their hatred of her. And so you kind of get the sense of, like, well, actually,
Yeah,
even
I
these.
don't know, man. You're really reaching on that one, I think, because
Really, I feel
oh
like
yeah,
that's
for
very
sure.
much
Like
like
wait,
I feel like that's very
here's the
articulated within the
thing.
film.
Like, remember that scene where she breathes fire? Like,
Hmm.
isn't that a very great coincidence that she can do that and is also depicted as a fire breathing dragon? And you're gonna say, no, that fire's fake? Come on,
Yeah, I'm gonna say that.
the fire is
Because
fake. Oh my god.
no, the fire happened. The fire happened, but I don't believe she was a fire breathing dragon that caused it, because we literally see in a flashback that has no sense of unreliable narrator quality to it that makes it seem like that's not the case. Like, that makes it
No,
seem
no,
like
that definitely happened, but I think after that she definitely continued to be at war with the humans. Like just
Like,
she ran away in that memory, but I mean, like
okay,
from that alone, that wouldn't have turned out to shape their entire society against dragons. You know, there must have been more that she did.
no, that I believe is exactly what happened. So the myth of this creature, the myth of Nimona, is that there was a great fire, and they blamed that great fire. They were like, "Oh yeah, this great fire, that was a dragon." Because the whole narrative of the film is about like media control and media spins on things. You know, we're told the entire time by the same society who believes her to be a dragon that there's monsters beyond the wall, and then the end reveal of the when the wall gets smashed down is that there's nothing to fear outside the wall.
Yeah, but that's
They
just
literally
incredibly
craft narrative.
convenient because
Well,
we.
it's incredibly convenient that there's nothing outside the wall, and that people who've been telling me that there's something to
I
fear
mean, there
outside the
was
wall also
something.
made up the dragon story.
I mean, that's just wrong because we know for a fact that Nimona has been outside the walls and she could have been all of those monsters, you know? Like the fact that they play her up to be this dragon and then oops, she can actually become a dragon. Like really, you think she never became a dragon?
I don't think the narrative that the society put forward about her, that's like she was a dragon and burned down the whole village and all that, that was ever true, no?
I mean, I don't know how you can keep telling yourself that, considering that she specifically does become a monster threatening a village, and why? Just because she was caught in a lie. It's not even because he was like doing anything horrible to her. He wasn't threatening her
Okay,
particularly.
but the
She
big
just ran away and she got her feelings hurt because she was caught in a lie, not because he did anything to her. It's just because she was found out, and so she decided to become Godzilla. I think this society was actually right about her.
So okay. So let's rewind it back a bit, little. Let's play the movie back a bit. So you're arguing that the dragon thing, like at some point in the past 1,000 years, she probably turned into a dragon and like burned down villages and stuff because we see her turn into the Godzilla monster at the end and smash up the place.
Yeah.
Is yeah? So that's the argument. Okay.
Like
So in that
she has
case,
never been shown to be anything bigger than a bear in the memory, right? But we
yeah.
how would people know then that she can become a dragon? Like if
Well,
she's never become a,
they didn't. But there was a big fire, and so they were like, "Well, what caused that?" And they were like, "Oh, the monsters must have caused the fire." And they're like, "Well, what kind of monster makes fire?" Oh, a dragon. That's like the narrative that got crafted around an incident.
it's pretty
That's kind of what
convenient that they
well, yeah,
perfectly.
it is convenient.
It's
That's the
convenient
point.
that
It's a
they
convenient
perfectly
narrative.
described her skill set of becoming huge and spitting fire. Then, isn't it?
Well, when does she does the Godzilla thing doesn't really look like a dragon though? So why are the drawings not depicting the Godzilla thing?
I mean,
That's pretty
I mean,
convenient, right?
I mean, she definitely becomes a dragon at some point. Do you forget that?
Yeah, I am forgetting this. I don't remember her becoming a dragon.
Yeah, she becomes a dragon who spews out. Yeah, she becomes the cornflakes dragon. Remember that one?
Oh, the little cutesy dragon.
Oh,
Come
it was
on.
huge.
It was cute. It was cute.
Yeah,
I know
cute.
that
And
dragon.
the dragon.
Ah, it was cute. That's not a dragon that destroyed all the towns. And if that was right, I think we're getting too hung up on the like logistics of the past 1,000 years. But like, if that dragon was the dragon that is the dragon in the myths, and is the dragon on the parchment that's burned things down and all that, like, at what point did she like simmer down then? Like when she turns into that dragon in the film,
I
why
mean,
doesn't she just go, okay, let's
it's
burn
pretty
everything
clear
alive?
that she simmered down when the guy told her to stop killing everyone. Like
Yeah, but
she was all about killing everyone just before she met him.
yeah, like again, talking the big game, but we never. I don't think we ever have any evidence to suggest that she's murderous or like actively killed anybody ever in her life. Just that there is a because that's the whole point of the film. The point of the film is the narratives we make around things, the narratives we assume. That's like the clear theme of the movie. Like even the head villain at the institution, like she truly believes in the narrative she's told herself to the point that she's willing to, Like, she's the one that says, like, there's danger beyond the walls. She's the one that says, like, the commoner can't be a knight. And so she crafts the narratives where that becomes true. She paints Nimona as danger. So now there is danger beyond the walls. She makes the knight into a murderer. So now, yeah, it is dangerous to let a commoner be a knight. But it's all narratives that she's crafted. And then to the point that they're so interwoven in society that to an extent she even seems to believe them.
I mean, she should believe them because Nimona does turn out to be a Godzilla. So the fact that she's actually been the only one to build this Godzilla cannon was actually not bad. Like the fact that she's trying to frame the knight and murder the girl. Okay, maybe that's a problem, but she wasn't wrong. Like about the danger of this girl.
I just think we enjoy movies in very different ways. This the only reason that the Godzilla thing forms is because Nimona is so pushed out and so isolated, and these narratives kind of perpetuate that into existence. If she doesn't not accept Nimona, if she doesn't like push Nimona out, create this narrative around her being like this horrible, awful monster, and create this like, you know, Godzilla canon that kills the kaiju version of Nimona because she's such a fearsome thing to be feared, and then treat her like that, then the Godzilla thing doesn't exist. Like it's this kind of like weird irony of like she builds a Godzilla canon to defeat this Godzilla that doesn't exist unless you're paranoid enough to build a Godzilla cannon.
I mean, no, Nimona didn't fucking know about that cannon. What are you talking
No,
about?
okay. You're taking me too literally. You're taking me far too literally here. I'm speaking metaphorically. Nimona doesn't know shit about the canon. I'm not pretending Nimona knows anything about the canon. What I am saying is that the Godzilla canon is systemic of the paranoia and fear that surrounds Nimona. Nimona only becomes that Godzilla because of the paranoia and fear surrounding her. If Nimona is accepted, if there isn't all these weird lies and myths and narratives around this horrible monster that's this shapeshifter that's going to burn down all your villages, if that doesn't exist, then Nimona's kaiju form doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is the paranoia that builds the canon is the same paranoia that makes you need a canon. If you don't build the canon, you don't have a kaiju.
I mean, I guess you just have this very uncritical way of watching movies where you just perfectly believe the narrative that they're setting out, you know?
I feel, well, I actually feel the inverse is true because I feel like you're buying the logic of like, oh well, the parchment said there was a dragon and she turned into a dragon once, so therefore I must believe. Like, that is that not critically thinking? Should you not be looking at the scene where we see the flashback and see, you know, oh, there's a fire started, perhaps this is where this myth formed, perhaps this is how they used the tools of what they saw of the Nimona, that she can turn into a dragon, to craft a false narrative around her and paint her as this thing. Like, I feel like that's not critically thinking, but you know, we can always reverse the perspective to say, like, I don't think there is a way to like uncritically watch a movie if you're willing to discuss it and pick at it. So I feel like to suggest the perspective of saying Nimona as like never having killed people because the movie never shows it is uncritical, because the movie also says like, oh, she definitely killed people, so why am I not believing that part? It's, well, because I'm looking deeper into the movie and like what it's trying to say and how these characters work and how the world functions, and then I'm taking the information from that no, in fact, that is a fictionalized narrative surrounding this character, because that's the themes of the movie, that's the point of the movie. The point is about media narratives creating systems that paint people and groups and minorities as these kind of monsters that they just are not.
But that would make it completely unapplicable to the real world. Like, if we say, oh, the one thing that might redeem her is that she never killed anyone, then that would mean that if a minority kills someone, then I guess we can't throw the book at them, because I guess they weren't in fact a Disney princess that was just misunderstood this entire time. I think the narrative might be more interesting if we actually do consider that like both of the narratives might have some truth to it, and just because she sees this initial event where she was turned into an outcast doesn't mean that there wasn't anything else that might have perpetuated this conflict, you know.
But maybe, and that's one interpretation. It may be, if to you it's more interesting. I'm not sure where we were going with the applicable to the real world thing. You kind of lost us a bit there. But if it's more interesting to you to entertain the idea that both narratives, Nimona's and the institution, have some element of truth to them, then yeah, I guess that is an interesting interpretation and one you could take away from the film. And that the actual truth is in some gray area between those 2 points. Like, that is a valid, genuine takeaway from the film that, I can see the sense in that. It's just not the interpretation I took away from. Like, I thought the suggestion of the themes of the film made it clear that the narratives and stories told about Nimona in this world were inherently falsified. That was my take on it. And clearly you've had a different take, but that's not to say that that's not either invalid. Like, I actually, now that you've kind of phrased it in a way where it's like, is it not more interesting if we take an element of truth from both narratives? Like, is that not more interesting? I'm like, yeah, I can totally see how that would be more interesting. Like, that might be an interesting takeaway. It's just not the takeaway that I had.
I mean, in relation to the real world thing, like the story that you're looking at would be that she is misunderstood, and that's why prejudice, that's why racism or whatever would be wrong, which would be just because like it's lies. But like, I mean, the crimes do happen. I mean, we can't just say that they don't happen. That wouldn't be the correct solution.
I think we're going in a
Yeah,
strange direction here. I think Nimona's relevance to the real world is just that, like, don't treat people badly just because they're different. Like, that's like just the kind of core message. I don't think it really kind of wants to or has anything to say about the judicial system and how
well, that can't be right, because like specifically our two protagonists are at the wrong side of the law at the
yeah,
start
but
of the movie.
what I mean is, like, I don't think like when I say the judicial system, I mean, like, it definitely has commentary around the ways in which laws might be unfair and negatively affect minority groups in ways that don't necessarily apply to them. But I don't think that it would. I don't think it's like trying to say, like, oh well, like, if we take this case of this specific immigrant and look at this specific refugee and how the like nitty gritty individual elements of their jury trial came to, like, I think at that point, like, yeah, you're moving too far away from any sort of
well, sure, but like if we're just saying, for example, like it's all lies, and she was just poorly judged, but then we do see that she does commit like a lot of actual crimes, like ridiculous amounts of completely unnecessary crimes.
Well, I don't think they're completely necessary. I think the narrative of the film
they
makes it
are
clear that
completely
they are very
unnecessary.
necessary.
No, she like when she breaks in to save the night, she is specifically as unstealthy as she could possibly be. She calls as much attention to herself as she can, just so she can beat up as many of the knights as she can. Like, that is unnecessary.
Well, I don't know, 'cause it kind of...
especially since she could turn into an insect and free him. She doesn't need to be a whale.
That's not interesting, though. Like, I wouldn't want to watch her turn into an insect.
Oh, sure.
Like, that's a very unengaging action set piece.
Wow. I mean, it could have worked well. I don't know if you've seen the what was it called, the Dungeons and Dragons movie. They had
Oh,
some
the
great
Dungeons and Dragons
shit.
movie did do a really cool scene with that where she gets the turns
Yeah.
into the fly, and yeah, I have seen it. That did some fun stuff. But I think that makes sense with that character in the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Nimona is not that character.
Well, yeah.
Nimona wouldn't go in stealthily, and so I
Well, yeah.
don't
That would
want to
be the
see that
problem.
character. Yeah, but I don't want, like, having met the character of Nimona, having her established as what she is and the way she acts. Like, I don't then want to see that character turn into a fly and kind of stealthily go through, because immediately that would, take me out of it. I'm like, this is not true to its own story. This is not true to its own characters.
Well, yeah, but that's exactly the problem, is the fact that she is just like an inherently violent character instead of like even considering possibilities. Like it would be so simple
Is that
for
a
her.
problem though? Like, why is that a problem?
How is being inherently violent a problem?
Because it's
I
in
could think
because
of
it
a
makes
few
for an
ways.
in no, in reality, absolutely, being inherently violent is a problem. But I'm saying, how is it a problem for the film?
I mean,
Because it's more that's she's a more interesting and engaging character due to her violent tendencies. Like, is it a better film if she's a goody goody two shoes and she just kind of like, you know, I just want to save this knight and prove his innocence, and I'm just going to kind of be his little sidekick, and she's kind of like a Robin character, and like I don't think that's a better film. I don't think it's a problem that she
but
has
but
these
she
violent
but she
tendencies. I think
just
it's more
she
engaging.
just becomes violent because she's bored. It's like not even
Yeah, it's
remotely
awesome.
necessary. Oh wow,
It's awesome.
yeah,
It's great. It's
great.
great character. It's a great character.
Yeah,
It's fun.
yeah, no, okay. I don't buy anything. Okay, I don't buy that she wasn't a dragon. I don't buy that she didn't kill anyone. This is just it. Okay, this is just this ideology of tearing down the system at any costs. And I don't believe that you can have a Disney princess with that ideology, because it's there's just too much collateral damage. It just
Well,
doesn't work for me that way. Then
she's not a Disney. She's not a Disney princess though.
wow, thanks. Okay. Well, I mean, like she can't be like. I mean, she's not like it. Like the point is that she's been misunderstood, and I don't buy it, because I think people understood her perfectly fine, and even
Okay,
it, it,
but we see in the flashbacks that she was never destructive. That society made her destructive by her ostracization and treating her like a monster. In the flashbacks when she is very young, which, you've acknowledged definitely happened the way they're framed in the film, there's no sense of unreliable narrator.
yeah.
She's actually a really gentle soul. She's lovely with that little boy, and they're very playful and very sweet, and it's a very cute scene. And the sort of non-diegetic sound of the film complements that. There's that beautiful, like, choiry sort of ethereal singing behind it that kind of articulates like this is a peaceful moment. There's no like hint of malice behind her. Like there's no sort of like intent of violence beneath the surface, like bubbling, which maybe would be articulated if the scene had played out with more tense music. But the fact that it's like, is this ethereal thing? And then it only changes when the crowd turn on her, attack her. The little boy who, was a friend gives her that look of like, oh, I see you as an outsider now. I see you as other. And she loses everything and that one friend in that moment. And then obviously that big fire happens, which she gets because of them attacking her, and she gets the blame for that. That brings out violent tendencies, because we never ever see those violent tendencies until that occurs.
I mean, like you've surely heard the phrase "a wolf in sheep's clothing" before. Just because she didn't mean to do anything doesn't mean that it's okay that she's been hiding this this very devastating part of her, and just because this is how it started doesn't mean that anything along the way would be justified. These people died 1,000 years ago. Like she's had enough times to change her course, and she is still.
Yeah, but she didn't kill him. Like, she
Well, yeah,
didn't kill these people.
but she
Like,
had a
she's
1,000 years to learn from her mistakes and try to interact better with people.
yeah, but then the
Instead she
element.
inspired people to build walls around them and keep her
Oh
out just because of her
no,
potential danger.
but here's the thing. we see that they perceive that potential danger when there isn't any potential danger.
Oh, there's a danger
She
when she turns into a
no,
bear and plays with the child. There's definitely a danger there. Like you think a little girl knows how to be a bear without hurting anyone?
it's certainly implied that she does from the thing. Like she never seems to be like outside of the, she never seems to be out of control of her own actions, apart from when she turns into the kaiju thing at the end, and like the kid and the bear are playing, and then the mom takes them off. But there's no sense of like imminent threat in that bear playing scene whatsoever. Like there's no. Again, I think you're applying like sort of cold clinical real life logic of like, yes, absolutely, a bear playing with a child would just maul it even if it didn't intend to. But like again,
I mean,
this is like
even if it didn't,
fantastical.
even if it's not about intention, like a bear is worse than having a gun. You know, like if you're a
Yeah, I
bear,
mean,
you're more dangerous to people around yourself than if you had a
this
gun.
is but again, this is like a fantastical animated world, and that bear was playing with that child, and it was just a cute scene. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be held. It does. The beauty of art is that it does not have to be constrained by the realms of reality.
But it
Um,
is in fact seen under the constraints of reality by the villagers
from the perspective of
because
the
they do
yeah,
see
from
a bear playing with a child and they do not approve of it. You know.
okay, but the issue, the main issue they take with her isn't even just the bear. Like if like if we break down that scene bit by bit, if the mom had pulled the kid away from the bear, naturally that's a totally sympathetic thing. Like, yeah, that's a bear playing with your child. Cool, whatever. When the bear then turns into a little girl, they're more appalled collectively as a unit. Um, if that scene plays out differently and the bear turns into a little girl and the mom's like approaches her and is like, "Oh, hey, sorry, didn't realize you were a little shapeshifter. Give you the benefit of the doubt. Just be careful when you turn into a bear around my boy." Obviously, this is a ridiculous scene, but just bear with us, like for the sake of this argument. Hey, just be careful when you're around my boy. Don't turn into a bear. I don't know that if you know your own strength. Sure, then you'd have a case if Nimona went crazy violent over the next 1,000 years. That yeah, that was war was because of her. But what we see instead is that she turns into a little girl. She clearly articulates, like, I mean no harm. I am safe. I am literally a small child, just a lost, scared little girl in the woods. And the villagers see that shapeshift and immediately are like, monster, throw rocks at it, throw fiery torches at it, oops, lit up me whole kingdom on fire. So to go back to your whole thing of like, yeah, she wasn't. So yeah, because earlier you said like, oh well, she wasn't in the wrong there, but those people died like 1,000 years ago. She's had 1,000 years to get better at interacting with villagers. On the flip side, the villagers have had 1,000 years to get better at interacting with her. Like, what did she? Oh,
But she
she
didn't
can't
do anything. Like the village,
exactly.
like no, the people didn't do anything. She turned into a Godzilla because her friend discovered that she was a fucking liar. What are you?
Oh, I'm on about the original scene. I'm on about
Well,
again.
you
I'm
were,
going back to the
but
flashback scene.
even in the original scene, when you have a wolf and then he puts on his sheep clothing again, you're not gonna be like, oh, I see, you're just a sheep now. No, like that girl still has the power to turn into that bear, and witchcraft is possibly even worse than a real life bear, you know. So
Okay, but
it's
what I'm
pretty
asking is,
dangerous.
do you think in that scene, that the message of the narrative, or the message and the intent of the character of Nimona is in any way to be a wolf in sheep's clothing?
I mean, I guess not, but like that's still what actually is happening, you know. Like she
But
is in
is it
fact.
what's happening?
I mean,
Is she a
yes,
wolf in sheep's clothing? Like
she
she
does
in
definitely
that
have the ability to become a wolf and a bear. Like,
That's not what the phrase "a wolf in sheep's clothing" means, though. A wolf in sheep's clothing is somebody with ill intent who poses as an ally.
well,
That's not what
that's very
Nimona
wolf
is.
phobic of you, okay?
That's the meaning of that phrase. And like, Nimona has no malice and no ill intent or ill will towards these people.
I
And
mean, a
then
wolf is just a dumb animal, but we know that wolves do things that we don't approve of, and that's why we prefer sheep over wolves.
sure, but like that's not really what I'm trying to get at. What I'm saying is that Nimona is like human, sentient. Well, not human, but like sentient enough to have human intelligence. Can take on the shape of a human, and form human conversations and human friendships and human. Uh, all of those kind of relationships, and presents herself, like, hey, look, little girl, like, I'm not sure what's going on here, and is immediately met with hostility. The 1,000 years since, I don't know that we can necessarily blame Nimona for that being the reason they put up the wall. Like, it's on her, because we saw how the village and the society reacted to just the sight of her when she was actively coming, sort of open-handed and being like, "Look, not carrying any weapons. I am a totally innocent little girl. Like, I don't know what's going on here." And their response was to react with like intense violence. So the naturally, like, the wall to me and all of the paranoia around it feels like a natural reaction from society based on the kind of ideological and prejudiced beliefs they clearly had in place all those years ago. Like, I don't think in the 1,000 years that happened, Nimona was like, actually, I'm going to approach the village a few more times, and now they're starting to piss us off, and now I'm going to wreck them, and then they're going to build a wall. It's like, it's quite clear, like, the wall was a natural evolution of just like their prejudices. And then at that point, what these
Are you really saying that they built the entire wall just because of that one scene where she turned into a bear and then a fire started?
Yeah, 100%. 100%, because I think that's the point of the movie.
Well,
I think that's
I think that's
the
just too
entire theme.
convenient because
I think narratives being convenient is a point of the movie. I think the fact that you think these things are too convenient, it's like, yeah, yeah, they are too convenient. It's very convenient
no,
that
it's
a
too
fire happened.
convenient that they are so correct about all the things that she can do,
No, no,
considering
it's
that they've never seen her turn into a dragon or breathe fire. You know,
the dragon myth came from the fire. It was a big, big, big fire, and everybody in the village knew that it was caused by a monster. And over time, that story turned into there was a dragon that burned down the whole kingdom. That's the dragon myth. That is
it's
convenient.
too bad we're not gonna get a prequel where we see that she keeps trying to get into this village, you know, and she just keeps picking weirder and weirder shapes until she actually becomes a dragon, you know. I
I would be interested in seeing that film come out, because I think it would be the most confusing, strange inclusion to a franchise you could ever see this side of Jason Goes to Hell.
well, so I guess it's kind of sad that there isn't gonna be like a sequel or whatever, or is there? Because like
I
this
would
movie has a lot of narrative going on, but it feels like the characters could use some time outside of the narrative to unfold. You know.
I would certainly like to see more of these characters. I think the characters are great. I'd like to see, like, there's a little part of us kind of that like the little part of my brain that thinks the story is done, but still enjoyed the world so much that, I kind of want a little bit of an epilogue, like, to see like how this world's changed now and stuff. I don't think there's any necessarily narrative value in that. It's just a kind of comforting thing because I like this world so much, and I'd certainly like to see these characters more. But I do think the story as a whole is done. Um, they did do sequels, which is a distinct possibility because although they have ran out of source material now, like, that is where the book ends too. They have greenlit Sea Beast for a second film. So I think Netflix, they have a track record for like, hey, we have a critically acclaimed and top 10 popular hit animated film. Let's do a sequel. Like, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. But I do think story is done. Even if I'd like to see more of these characters in this world, I think it kind of gets across all the themes it wants to, and gets across the ideas and communicates and articulates the ideas it wants to, and packages it in like a fun. I think it's like a 90 minute. Um, yeah, I'm normally very much with a film that I love. I'm very much of the opinion of like I need a sequel, or please never give it a sequel. Nimona's one of the rare instances where I'm like, I'd be happy to see a prequel or sequel or more in this world, but equally, if this was all we ever got, like that's awesome too because it is a complete story.
I guess it depends. Is it more like Inside Job or is it more like Big Mouth? Maybe that'll tell us whether or not it'll get a sequel. Can you believe they cancelled Inside Job? What a shame.
I'm so confused. I get really confused with what lives on at Netflix and what doesn't. It seems very random at times. Like,
Well, Big Mouth
yeah, the
was
big
making like the big bucks, so I guess that makes
Yeah, I was gonna
sense.
say I get that Big Mouth is popular, so I understand why it's there. I've never got it. I've never ever. It's never clicked with us. I've never really understood it. I get why it does well, but like I don't know. I would have thought Inside Job had more life left in it, but apparently not. I guess I don't know. To be honest, I feel like Netflix probably failed Inside Job. I feel like Netflix probably didn't market it enough. I feel like it could have been a lot bigger. In a different world, I see Inside Job as being Netflix's like Rick and Morty level mega hit, but it just never got there.
I mean, it is trying to be Rick and Morty a little too much, I guess.
Maybe that's holding it against it. Maybe that's what's holding it back. Yeah.
Maybe it just took too long to make. Maybe that's why it
Maybe it
didn't
could
pay
it could,
off.
could be a million different things, and also Netflix just get very cancel happy with like so many properties. I am still so mad about Glow because they literally had started production on the final season and filmed and finished editing an episode, and they just at least give with that episode. Like I know that's kind of like then you feel pressure to put out more, but it's literally just a finished episode of that show is just sitting in an archive for nobody to ever see, and that is so depressing to me.
Wow, what a
Because I
shame.
love that show as well.
I never heard of it.
I'm not sure you would like it because it is a wrestling show, but
Ah,
I,
ah.
I'm a big wrestling guy, as I'm sure you're aware.
Well, I'm definitely not gonna watch it now, considering that I know it doesn't get a good finale. I guess.
Yeah, well, it has an ending, but yeah, it's like not unsat. That's a lie. I was going to say I'm not unsatisfied with where it ends, but that's a lie because I do want another season. Um, uh, it could have ended where it ended, sort of. There's like a couple of loose ends. There's still very much like a finishing point, but there's like a couple of loose ends, and the characters kind of go apart. But if it ends there, it still kind of makes sense. But I would, it definitely, it definitely had another season in it because the bloody went and started making it. But yeah, we'll never see that, unfortunately.
Anyways, I guess I should say a few more things about Nimona. Uh,
Cool.
I think the jokes were awful.
I can see why somebody wouldn't like the jokes. I don't know, like it's such a subjective thing. Like I find it hard to even articulate why I like them. They just landed with me.
It's very strange, and like the way they're animated is such a weird way that's so far from reality, but they are moving very smoothly as if they were very lifelike. But then they make these really cartoonish jokes and contort their faces really
Yeah,
painfully.
I don't know. I just love that stuff. Like I can't quite articulate why it worked for us, whereas like other similar jokes in similar children's properties won't, and like I'll roll my eyes at them. But I don't know, like something about the animation that feeding back into the punchlines in kind of like creative ways, or the way like the characters expressed these jokes, like with the way their faces contorted and stuff. It was just it felt fun to me, and it made us like giggle a few times. So I liked it. They landed for me.
I guess I greatly prefer the Dragon Prince. I wonder if that's gonna get another season.
I love the Dragon Prince.
Hell yeah.
I feel like it's a shame that early seasons have such choppy animation because I always have a hard time convincing people to watch the Dragon Prince because they always have a hard time getting through the choppy animation of the first seasons. But I think the Dragon Prince rules. I think it is getting another season, actually. I may be mistaken on that. Don't quote us on that. We'll have to look it up after this podcast. But I do think it is.
Maybe this is
Either way, it rules.
Yeah, that one's like way better than Nimona.
Well, they're different things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say that it's worse or better because it's so. I mean, for a start, they're not even the same format. One's a movie and one's a series, so like it's hard to kind of compare the two. But that,
I mean,
but
it probably would have worked better for me as a series, Nimona.
Yeah, maybe actually, that I could kind of say that. There's definitely a lot more like world to explore there, so maybe they could have done something as a series, and then I feel like you could have eked out the conspiracy slowly over time.
Yeah, and then they would have finally known if she does become a dragon or not. I must know.
But Dragon Prince obviously is like, you know, Nimona's trying to tell this like very contained, thematically rich, 90-minute tight story about friendship and prejudice and societal systems, whereas Dragon Prince is kind of doing this whole like, you know, a big epic adventure kind of scale with like a world of like all these fantastical elements, and each one of them is explored. So, you know, you learn about things like that little worm that carrot goes in the ears and stuff, and the different races and the different villages and that's just inherently a different thing to what Nimona is doing. So like, you know, I love both. I'm not gonna like pit the two against each other, but they're both great.
Fight! Let the fight!
Well, Nimona will win because she's Godzilla, so...
I mean, just magic and dragons, I don't know.
That's true. No, that is true. Dragon Prince has got some pretty gnarly magic going on.
Yeah, they got like multiple powerful characters, you know? not just two.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright, well, I guess I can slightly recommend Nimona, but I mean, I'm just generally impressed with Netflix usually, and I guess I'm alone on that one, but yeah.
And I can hardly recommend Nimona for anyone listening. So you've got two recommendations, one a bit less enthusiastic than mine.
Well, there you go, everyone. Check out Dan Dramble's channel. You made a video about Nimona, and now a podcast with me. All right.
You did.
Goodbye, everyone.
Awesome. Work for you?